Hello and welcome to all my change makers. We are celebrating change makers again today because by gosh, it is time for the change makers to find each other, to unite, and to see what we can do to be those global lights around the world because we need to be seen. So today we are celebrating and so excited because we have Miss Haley with us today, and she is a very special kind of change maker. She's supporting the change makers, but I still wonder if she's going to end up in doing more of the actual healing component over time as well. So, welcome, Haley. Tell us a little bit about you and what you are up to.
Hi, nice to be here. So my name is Haley Walden, and professionally, I'm a content and brand strategist, a thought partner, and a copywriter. And I'm coming from a copywriting background, moving into a little more strategy for holistic, heart-centered, and healer-driven businesses. I'm also a fantasy author and a martial artist, and all the things. A huge interest in the holistic world, and I'm based in Alabama. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not sure we've had anybody else from Alabama who's interviewed yet. So welcome. We love it. Well, tell us a little bit more about what's your story? What in the world has brought you into marketing and now wanting to be a specialized marketer in the heart-centered world?
well, marketing was an accident. I have a degree in professional writing and history, actually. And so I was trained in journalism, business communication, technical writing, pretty much everything but marketing. And so in my mind, I wasn't qualified to be a marketer. So I started my first 5 years out of college, I was in technical publications. And then my kids had some health issues. And so I left the corporate world and started to freelance. And I moved into marketing as a virtual assistant because, again, I didn't see myself as qualified to be a copywriter. And so one of my first VA clients actually was a book marketing agency, and the owner noticed that I could write and immediately had me ghostwriting marketing materials for, household name New York Times bestsellers. And
Wow.
so that was like being thrown headlong into, oh yeah, you're qualified. Like, go, we need this. And so I ended up starting my own business off of that, in 2016. So
Mhm.
most of my foundational work as a marketer has been as a copywriter. And of course, when you are a copywriter, you have to think strategically, you have to write strategically, and it's kind of an organic progression into brand strategy for a lot of us. And so for most of my time as a copywriter, I've also called myself a brand voice strategist. I'm just moving into a little bit more of the big picture of how a brand can position itself and how people can talk about what they do in order to attract the aligned clients and customers.
That all sounds amazing. And now you're feeling more pulled and more pulled towards working with the heart based entrepreneur community, the holistic healing community. What kind of challenges, from your perspective, does that particular community have in terms of their marketing?
So a lot of business owners struggle with marketing, but it's particularly it's kind of a sensitive topic within the healer space because we're often so outward focused. So we focus on the people that we help, and it can feel uncomfortable to talk about what we do and how we bring value in a marketing sense because self promotion often feels icky, and it's kind of a mindset thing.
Mhm.
Of course, nobody can know how you help people unless you're able to talk about yourself and you're able to put that value in, like, kind of infuse the value into your language about how you speak about your business. And
Mm.
so it's so easy to sort of be, I don't know, I've always called myself kind of a chameleon, and I've been working on coming out of that myself. So I speak from personal experience, working in the background, blending in with the people that I help. But what happens is when you blend in or you are kind of hiding behind what you do, you actually don't get noticed by the people who need you most, and it's really easy to literally disappear. And so when I talk about the mindset of putting yourself out there and putting your business out there, there's also a self-worth component to that. So, if you've been in the holistic space, the healer space, the spiritual space for any length of time, a lot of people have difficulties with asking for fair pay or with the mindset around money or abundance. And there's a lot of conversations around that. All those conversations aren't necessarily linked to self-worth, but working on all of that stuff as a whole is what helps you to start being able to talk about your business. And it actually, it feels uncomfortable to get out there and put yourself out there, but it does build confidence to just practice that. And so
Mhm.
what someone like me can do is to help you kind of pull that magic that you bring to your personal interactions up to the surface and help you be able to find the words to talk about how you help people.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And it almost sounds like you should have a collaboration team of healers around you to be able to help with some of those issues with the clients so that it becomes easier for you to be able to really be able to put the messaging together that's going to do the best for them is I can picture something like that. I still want to call you the healing marketer,
I
something of
love
that
that.
nature.
I love that. Like, that would be pretty cool to have, like a collective of,
Hmm.
and kind of like maybe an agency collective where you've got, you know, like, okay, well, we're dealing with this, so maybe it's time to go do this kind of session, or we're gonna work through this exercise. That's an interesting thought for sure.
I love helping people, hone brands too. I don't claim to be the expert that I believe you are, but I can try to come up with some unique thoughts every now and then. So take it, run with it, do whatever. I love it. But help because this is going to be seen in heavily our healing community that we're building. So help our healers to understand your knowledge base in terms of, the more holistic healing space.
So, I have been in the holistic healing space for 23 years personally, working with naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, um, more, natural practitioners, since I was a teenager. So I guess about 17. And so over the years, it's kind of been this slow learning process for me. But over the years, I've kind of amassed and gathered this information that has informed my approach to my personal health and well-being. It has informed how I parent and my how my kids are being raised and everything. And so I've worked with just have because I have a personal interest in this. I've worked with some clients who are already in this space, whether it's e-commerce, nutraceutical companies. I've worked with a few authors in this world and, a couple of brands that are sort of adjacent to holistic healing. And so it's just been a natural progression of having so much personal interest and then starting to think about what would it look like if I married my copywriting and branding and consulting work with this world. And so that's how I ended up here with the idea to start, serving more healers. And then there's also, going back to the idea of self-worth. That's something that I've dealt with personally. And so working through the snarls of building my own business, starting to learn how to put myself out there and talk about what I do, going from being comfortable just blending into other brands and being invisible and
Mhm,
realizing, "Oh, if I'm invisible, I'm a commodity. So I
mhm,
have to talk about myself, and I have to
mhm,
talk about the way that I write and the way that I work with clients because that's how you differentiate yourself. And no two healers approaches anything the same way. No two
mhm.
holistic brands do anything the same way. And so everybody has their unique imprint on how they approach the work that they do. And
Mhm.
if you can partner with, it doesn't necessarily have to be me, but if you can partner with someone who is intuitive and has the brand building knowledge, then that can help get that energetic imprint out into the world, because that, your unique energy is really what draws people to you. It's not about looking like other brands. It's not about, you know, mimicking what someone else is doing. It's really just like, an energy healer may have amassed multiple different kinds of modalities throughout, all the things that they've learned. And
Mhm.
then a lot of healers have an intuitive thing that they've developed on their own, right? Well,
Mhm.
you could let's say that you're a Reiki practitioner, but what you've built is more intuitive than traditional. If the
Mhm.
only thing you market is Reiki, you might be one in a million healers. But when you talk about what you do from the perspective of your own experience and your philosophy, then that's what sets you apart. And that's how the people who want your approach can find you.
Mm. Absolutely. I love it. And what I hear in your commentary is so much about, I think one of the things that heart-centered entrepreneurs especially need to hear is, if marketing is done well, it's not about running down the road with a club trying to beat people up to come and use your services. It's about attracting people to you, which is a much more desirable thing, I would think.
It is. It is. And it's, if you struggle with even the idea of attracting other people, then you can think about it as relationship building. Um,
Mm.
there's so many different ways that you can use marketing channels to do
Mhm.
that, and you don't have to be in all the places all at once when you start. Even if you just pick, one track, if you want one social media platform, you want to set up, your website. And then you have to keep in mind that brands evolve, your business is going to evolve over time. So whatever you try, set yourself, try this for 3 months and see how it goes. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't resonate with you, if people aren't coming to you, you can switch how you market. You can adjust how you talk about yourself. I had a client last year who was launching a business for the first time, and they were in the healer space, and they were incredibly nervous about putting into words what they do, because like so many of us are too close to our own businesses to
Mhm.
objectively speak about them as an observer. So it's easy to get in the weeds and feel emotional about it. And I remember we were having a conversation about how they had taken all the steps up until setting up their website. And I said, your you're hanging a shingle, but it doesn't have to be set in stone forever. You can always adjust how you talk about your work. You can always adjust your marketing approach. It's all fluid. And really, marketing is very subjective. It's very experimental. Um, and there are certain, proven practices that work, but the combination of things that works for you is going to be different than your competitor a lot of times. And so
Yeah.
everything is, if you approach it with kind of this open minded, things can change, it's okay for things to change approach, then that helps pull some of the weight off. Because when we talked about that, you can change how you approach this, right? The immediate response from the client was, okay. Like, okay,
Well, it's totally normal in marketing, right? To test different type of messaging to see what kind of responses you get.
exactly. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be go buy my thing. You can just talk about your philosophy, and you're inviting people to come into your world if it resonates with them. That's not a hard sell. That's an invitation. And so if you think about it as, you know, if this resonates with you, I know how to help you. That feels way different than click here and buy this thing.
Right.
Like, let's create scarcity. Like, That's not everybody's style, and sales, has a lot of different approaches and a lot of different styles. But if you can kind of separate the idea of like, "Ooh, I have to sell things," from, "I'm gonna build relationships with people who could benefit from my healing service, the product that I've created that improves people's lives," you know, if you can think about it that way, it really frames it up differently. But learning how to market is it's a reframing game that you have to play with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Very good. Very good. Um, let's see, where shall we go next? Well, I'm curious, do you have any big visions for the future of things that you'd like to be adding to what you're doing or people you'd like to be working with?
Wow. So I tend to have a general idea of what I want the future to look like, but I don't know the specific paths to get there. I know that I want to keep growing my business in this direction. Um,
Mhm.
I know that I want to make more extensive travel a component of the work that I do. Not 100% sure what that is going to look like yet, and we're open to possibilities. But
Mhm.
I am I've studied energy healing for several years. I've got a Reiki 3 certification, so that's Reiki Master, and I've started learning a healing modality called Motoki, which is based in the martial arts. And I'm a martial artist. I study Tang Soo Do, where I'm a second degree black belt, Taekwondo, where I'm a first degree, and then I've also studied, a little bit of jujitsu and tai chi, qigong, and so that's a world that I've been in since I was a teenager too. Um,
Wow.
there are energetic kind of the old school martial arts, there's an energetic component to that, and it's where Moto-ki comes from. And so I've started working with a couple of healers out of San Jose to learn the basics of Motoki. It's a modality that I would love to help carry forward because it's
Okay.
considered an endangered art at this time. And so that's part of the future tapestry that I'm working toward. Um, but yeah, we'll see what that looks like. I would also love to grow my readership with my fiction books. I write epic fantasy, and so it's a lot of magic and adventure, and it's a
Oh, well, you gotta tell us about at least one of those books because I'm curious now.
yeah. So the primary series is called The Witness Tree Chronicles, and it was inspired by um, I I have a Scottish branch in my family that still considers they call themselves a clan, and we're all in Alabama, but they've brought some of that clannish tradition of just trying to honor that heritage. And so I think it was my great uncle was he was handpicked by his grandmother to be the next family historian, and they called the family historian the witness tree. And in history, a witness tree is a tree or a forest that has borne witness to a historical event. So if there are, say, trees standing at the Shiloh battlefield in Tennessee, right, from the Civil War, if
Mhm.
those trees have been standing there since prior to the battle, then they were witness trees to that to that s- uh to that battle. And so that's sort of an abstract, but I love the title Witness Tree for my great uncle so much that I started thinking about it in context of fantasy. And so what would it look like if a historian inherited magic that showed her what happened in the past? And so the first book in that series is called Defender of Histories, and it follows a historian named Salira who inherits memory magic. And her story it begins as a riches to rags, where she's set to inherit the royal archive, and unfortunately, when the victors write the histories, sometimes the truth has been completely erased. So in her
Right.
case, she is completely indoctrinated into the accepted conventional wisdom. And when she
Mhm.
inherits magic, it absolutely blows her world apart because she realizes that all the things that she has believed and fought for and taught other people, and is expected to protect this conventional narrative. All of it's a lie. And so
Oh,
it grows into, a multiple point of view series, but the first book is just from her point of view, and then it grows from there.
wow. That sounds powerful. Considering that I tend to think the whole world is a stage and we really don't know what's real and what isn't anymore. So congrats for finding a way to communicate such a concept. That sounds very cool. Very
Thank
cool.
you. I
Good
started it
deal. Well, how can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I started it in 2016, and, I felt like it's become more and more relevant. It's just been really interesting to build on this, and then, um, to find out along the way that some of the things that were naturally coming out into the story parallel with a lot of spiritual concepts and different things like that, so it's fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, how can people get a hold of you, either for marketing assistance or how can they find your series of books?
Alright, so for marketing, I'm at HaleyWalden.com. And I actually have a resource on my website, that helps you to start building out your own brand voice. It's got some tips for how to begin developing that and some of the ways that I go about it. And then, let's see. So that's the work. There's also a portfolio of a lot of my copywriting work on there. You'll see that, I'm starting to build this on ramp to strategy. And then, my books are at authorhaleywalden.com. So just stick author in front of my name. And I have a
Okay.
free novella on my website that you can download.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, please, this will be in both our Facebook group and our YouTube channel. Please feel free to put all that information into the contents. We love it when our guests are willing to share something with people that can help them out and at the same time help them learn more about you. So we are so grateful that you are here today and been delightful to get to know you and what you've got going on. Do you have any wonderful words of wisdom you'd like to leave everybody with today?
Yes. So your story matters,
Mm,
personal and professional.
mm.
And when you tell your story and you put it out there, that's when the people who are aligned with you can find you. So don't be afraid to tell it. And if you need
That
help telling it, there's help.
awesome. I love it. I agree 100%. I think everybody has at least one book within them and they should be writing it. And that's that.
I agree.
That's how we can create more hope in the world, and the world needs more hope right now. So we'll go with that. And we thank you so much for being here today. We thank all our change makers for tuning in and learning about Miss Haley Walden. And we will see you in the next interview. In the meantime, have an amazing day. Take care.